You are listening to the Aging Starts Now podcast, where it's all about responding with confidence to the legal, financial, and personal challenges created by a disability, unexpected illness, or aging in general. Join us weekly as elder law attorneys Barbara McGinnis and Chris Johnson, along with other members of the Johnson McGinnis Elder Care Law and Estate Planning team, talk about the tools, techniques, strategies, and services that will make the elder care journey easier for everyone involved. Get ready, because aging starts now.
Welcome to Aging Starts Now, a podcast from Johnson McGinnis Elder Care Law and Estate Planning, where we help you respond with confidence to the legal, financial, and personal challenges that come with aging, unexpected illness, or disability. I'm Dana Hentschel, Outreach Coordinator with Johnson McGinnis Elder Care Law and Estate Planning, and today we're talking about an important warning for Medicare beneficiaries and their families, a Medicare fraud scam that's resurfacing all across Tennessee. Some beneficiaries are discovering charges on their Medicare summary notices for medical equipment, specifically urinary catheters, that they never ordered, never received, and that their doctors never prescribed. Even more concerning, Medicare is paying these claims. So joining me today is Tyler McCullar, Public Benefits Specialist with Johnson McGinnis Elder Care Law and Estate Planning. Tyler works closely with individuals and families navigating Medicare and public benefits, and he's here to help us understand what's happening, how to spot red flags, and what to do if you think you've been affected. Hey, Tyler.
Hey, Dana. Thank you for having me on. This is definitely an important topic to talk about and very important at current times when this particular scam is running rampant.
Yeah, so can you just give an overview of why this is so concerning?
Yeah, it's so concerning because it seems like the scammers have latched onto a particular medical code with these urinary catheter kits that are being easily approved from Medicare without a whole lot of question. And it's just very concerning because even if there's not a whole lot of out of pocket for the beneficiary, it's still bleeding a lot of money out from Medicare's pocket, which could potentially harm benefits for beneficiaries in the future when it comes to funding and benefits that Medicare is able to provide in general.
Wow. So who is most at risk for this type of Medicare fraud?
Yeah, I would say every Medicare beneficiary is at risk for this scam, but especially those that have maybe been scammed in the past where someone has gotten a hold of their Medicare number or have just been to a lot of providers. All it takes for these particular scammers is to have your Medicare number, that 11-digit number that you get on your red, white, and blue Medicare card, and they can start billing these services. So if you have been scammed before where you accidentally gave out your Medicare information, that Medicare number may be on the dark web right now where these scammers are pulling that information. Or maybe you are in a situation where you've been to a provider that may be getting these Medicare numbers out somehow. There's so many different possibilities on how these scammers have gotten these Medicare numbers. So there's really no one way to really pinpoint how they got the number, but definitely those who have maybe had their Medicare number exposed before may be more at risk.
So Tyler came in. I work here at the firm, and I am an attorney, in fact, for my aunt, and Tyler mentioned this to me in passing, and I went home and looked on the summary report, and my aunt was a victim of this. And I'm trying to think how her card number could have gotten out because she doesn't even have access to that card. The only people that have access to that card are her medical providers. So you don't have to knowingly necessarily have given your number to someone else in order to be a victim. Is that correct?
That is very correct. It could have been a data breach, hackers or scammers being able to get into sensitive information from others without them necessarily nefariously giving it out. It could have been a random number cracker maybe some software that scammers were running just to do all kinds of different combinations of letters and numbers until they got valid codes. It could be one of many different things that they used to got these numbers. But the important part is they did get that number. And if it's your particular beneficiary code, they're now using it to build these catheter kits and bleed Medicare money.
So, of course, we get the Medicare summary notices, and these notices just say what has been billed for Medicare. I don't always look at those summaries just because they are sent so far delayed from the actual service, and I'm not actually cutting a check to pay for these. I only kind of refer back if I get a bill. So unless Tyler had told me about this, I would have just kind of filed this away. But what are some red flags, or what should you be looking for on these Medicare summary reports that you receive?
Yeah, great question, Dana. So there are a couple different things that you can really pinpoint. Obviously, you want to take a look at when the service was billed. You can typically have a good recollection of when you received the service, if you received it, and what provider you received it from. And your Medicare summary notice gives you all of that information. On your Medicare summary notice, it will give you a good time frame. For example, May 19th through September 19th of 2025. That's a time frame where I'm seeing a lot of these catheter scans billed is from like April to October, or from May to September. And so you look at the time frame on when these are billed. You want to look at what company they were billed from. With these catheter scans, it's from all kinds of different durable medical equipment companies, all different names. I don't think I've seen a Medicare summary notice where I've seen the same company. What's happening is these scammers are creating these fake shell durable medical equipment companies that if you actually look up the address that is listed on these, usually it's maybe strip mall suites or offices that are not actually occupied, or empty warehouse spaces that don't actually have any businesses running out of them. So they're very smart about setting these up. But you want to look at the names of the companies on there if it's a company you're familiar with, what the address of the company is. We're seeing a lot of these shell companies coming from Florida. And then you want to look at the specific services that are being billed. Too, you'll see under the address of the durable medical equipment company or company that's billing it Medicare for this, you'll see it was ordered by a particular physician. If you were never physically examined or never had an appointment with the particular physician or doctor who is ordering this particular service, then that is a huge red flag, because a lot of times for these particular services to be billed under a medically necessary code, that doctor is required to have physically examined you first. So that's a big red flag. And then the other big red flag is, if you just notice a service you either never received or never went to a doctor's office to have done, then that is a huge indicator.
Right. Well, I think her Medicare summary notice came in sometime in December, and I looked back and it had the report starting in April, and it was very clear that was the only service that had been billed for her. April, May, June, July, August, and it was all just catheters.
Yeah, all the ones I've seen are almost perfectly a month apart.
Mm-hmm. And so, of course, we're not paying these. I mean, as taxpayers, we are, but she isn't paying this. But could this type of fraud impact someone's future access to medical equipment or services?
It certainly could. We haven't seen that be the case yet with the catheter kits. It's a medical code that these scammers have latched on to because Medicare has approved it easily. And as long as there's a medically necessary code for it, it is being approved continuously. So we haven't seen a particular limit on this service in particular. But to answer your question, it absolutely could impact durable medical equipment orders for beneficiaries in the future, especially things like wheelchairs or braces, motorized scooters or wheelchairs. Those sorts of things have very time framed limits where you can only have a wheelchair every 5 years or a hospital bed every couple years. So that's why it's so important to make sure you're paying attention to what's being billed under your Medicare, because there are certain pieces of durable medical equipment that do have time frames that if it had already been billed under your Medicare number, you wouldn't be able to have something billed under Medicare and then pay for it for a certain amount of time after that. So we haven't seen that be the case with the catheter kits yet, but especially with as rampant as this particular code is right now, that could happen in the future where this particular service line gets limited.
Right. So check those statements if you are somebody's attorney. In fact, even if you're not cutting a check at the moment, it's important to review.
Absolutely, it is, especially with a beneficiary who has a supplemental. Then you're definitely not seeing out of pocket for these scams at all. And likely the bill wouldn't actually make it to you anyways, because you're not actually receiving the kit or the service itself, but because it's being so easily approved by Medicare at this time, the amount that we're seeing Medicare pay is right around $1,792 for this service. So the scammer is getting their money from Medicare and then moving on, billing it again the next month, moving on to a new Medicare number. So it's not necessarily that they're going to be pestering the beneficiary for the amount owed, whether they have a supplemental plan or not, to pay the 20% that's left. It's just a matter of them getting their Medicare money and running from there. So it's just about making sure we prevent as much Medicare fraud, waste, and abuse as we can.
So, what are some common tactics that scammers use to trick people into giving out their Medicare number? And how can family members and caregivers help protect their loved ones from being victims of this again?
Yeah, definitely. There's been multitude of ways that scammers have done this. They will call people and say, hey, we've moved to a new plastic Medicare card. You no longer have to have your flimsy paper card anymore. We're going to send you a plastic one. All we need is your old Medicare number, and we're going to send you a brand new plastic one that you're going to be able to put in your wallet, and it's going to be durable and last you a long time. That is completely false. The government has always done paper cards for the Medicare card, and that has not changed. So that's been a popular scam. Back in 2019, when Medicare went from using people's social security numbers to the new 11-digit combination of letters and numbers for the new Medicare card, there are still people who will call people and say, hey, we're just validating your new Medicare number. Make sure it transitioned okay. We need you to verify it. That's a common scam attempt. And then, emails, just like any other email that you get saying, hey, you won this particular toolkit. We need to verify your information to be able to send you this brand new toolkit that you just won. There's lots of different phishing emails that if they suspect someone is a Medicare beneficiary, they send all kinds of phishing emails of, hey, we're reaching out to you about your Medicare. If you do not click on this and verify your information, we're going to deactivate your benefits or take this away. So there's various ways that people can try to get this number from you, whether that be from a phone call, a text, an email. Usually what they do is they try to use some type of call of action with fear. If you don't do this, you're going to lose that. So they try to use a scare tactic to trick you into giving them their information. So guard against who you talk to on the phone. One rule of thumb is Medicare will never call you unless you specifically solicit a call from them, and they have to end up calling you back later because they can't talk to you right away. Otherwise, they'll always just send you a piece of mail. Medicare will never call you over the phone. So guard against your phone calls, guard against your emails. Don't click anything that looks fishy. The rule of thumb there is if it looks too good to be true, it normally is. So just be careful with that stuff.
Right. So let's say you look at the summary of benefits and you do see fraudulent charges. What do you do next?
Yeah. So if you see, just to point out, with the catheters in particular, the one service line you're looking for, what we're seeing is it says 300 intermittent urinary catheter. And so if you see that, then, and you haven't received any type of service, you don't know anything about it, your doctor's never mentioned a catheter kit, then this is the rampant scam that's going. So if you see this, the number one thing you need to do is immediately call Medicare, the 1-800-Medicare hotline. You can call them. What you need to do is you need to request a new Medicare number. You can let them know that you have seen something fishy on your Medicare summary notice. You can even mention the catheter scam itself if that ends up being the case. And then not only can you request a new Medicare number, they'll ask you some things like your date of birth, address, those sorts of things to verify your identity. And then they can put in that request for you. And then you can also report that to the Medicare fraud department. The 1-800-Medicare hotline is 1-800-633-4227. So that is the first step to getting that corrected. It takes about 2 weeks for you to get your new Medicare number. This is extremely important because obviously your old Medicare number is compromised. So if you left your Medicare number the way that was, then you are susceptible to more scams in the future, not only to the people that have obviously obtained your Medicare number and are using it to bill these fraudulent charges, these fraudulent services now, but who's to say that the people that has your Medicare number isn't going to sell it to other people through the dark web or share it through other sources. So you have to get a new Medicare number. So first thing you do is you call Medicare, request a new Medicare number. 2 weeks later, you get your new Medicare number, and you want to make sure that all of your important providers do get that new Medicare number, but you also want to be careful with your new Medicare number as well. You want to treat it like a credit card. You only give that out to the people who need it. And then from there, one place that you can also call, especially if you are a Tennessee resident here, is the Tennessee Senior Medicare Patrol. And the Tennessee Medicare Patrol is a grant-funded program that helps detect, protect, and report Medicare fraud, waste, and abuse. And so they are an excellent program that they report directly to the Office of Inspector General, who investigates and prosecutes insurance fraud. And so this particular program would allow you to help report this fraud incident and help do an investigation to hopefully get enough breadcrumbs to run these scammers down and stop them for good. The phone number to the Senior Medicare Patrol hotline is 866-836-7667. 877.
Okay. So, Tyler, just to clarify, the first thing you need to do, even though you didn't pay for it out of pocket, your Medicare number has been compromised and you are at risk for more fraudulent charges, and you need a new number first and foremost. And not to be confused, your Medicare number is not your Social Security number. They're two different things.
That is correct. In 2019, that is when they did the big switch where they stopped using people's Social Security numbers as their Medicare number and started using a new combination of letters and digits, 11 to be exact, of numbers and letters to prevent these types of things from obviously people getting a hold of other people's Social Security numbers, but also giving an avenue to change Medicare numbers in the future for instances like this. Because in the past, if your number was compromised, obviously Social Security can't give you a new Social Security number without lots of complications. So this was a big revelation in 2019 to get these new Medicare numbers for when these sorts of things happened, to give the possibility for somebody to have a new Medicare number, since there are billions of combinations of these 11 digits where you can always change to a different number. So you're exactly right that the first thing that you have to do is change your Medicare number, because now that it's out there, you have no idea who could possibly get their hands on it. So that is so important, is you want to make sure you get a new number that's not compromised. And if you're worried about your providers, know that they do give a little bit of time of overlap, right? It takes about 2 weeks to get your card. They're going to overlap those two numbers about 1 month. So your new number will work for 1 month after it's reported. After that, it will completely shut off, and now your new Medicare number is the only one that's usable. So there is some cushion when you're transitioning to that new Medicare number, but you just want to make sure all of your providers have your new Medicare number once you get it. That is your responsibility.
Sure. And then secondly, you do want to report it to the Medicare fraud department here in Tennessee. Give them a call because you want to prevent this from happening in the future. And that's important to prevent Medicare fraud, because Medicare fraud affects all of us through tax dollars, correct?
That's exactly right, because you are paying for this service out. You said it perfectly. You're paying it out of your tax dollars. Your whole work history, you've paid into Medicare. You want to be able to get your full Medicare benefits. And when people are out here fraudulently billing Medicare, taking money from the program you've paid a lot of money into, that does put the Medicare program at risk of having trouble funding in the future, having trouble providing certain services, because of this particular service line of the catheter being such a exposed and abused service line right now. They may put further restrictions on it to prevent these scammers from using this service line that make people that truly need this service line or this equipment a lot harder to get in the future. So fraud, waste, and abuse just makes it a whole lot harder on the beneficiary in the future, whether you're paying out of pocket for it now or not.
Right. Well, Tyler, this is great information. Thank you so much for sharing all of these valuable insights today. This is a strong reminder that reviewing your Medicare summary notice isn't just paperwork. It is protection. And if you notice charges for equipment that you didn't receive, or if it's something that just doesn't feel right, trust your instincts and take action. And reporting suspected fraud quickly can help protect your Medicare benefits and prevent further misuse of your information. So if you would like more guidance on Medicare, public benefits, or planning for the challenges that come with aging, visit Johnson McGinnis Elder Care Law and Estate Planning, our website at tn-elderlaw.com, and join us next week for another episode of Aging Starts Now.
Thank you for listening to the Aging Starts Now podcast. For more information about today's show, visit tn-elderlaw.com, click on the Free Resources tab, and then click on Aging Starts Now. You'll find the show notes there. And while you're at it, why not check out all the free resources available at tn-elderlaw.com? Document downloads, the Johnson McGinnis blog, educational videos, informative articles, helpful links, a TV show, and more. It's all there, free for the taking. If you enjoy listening to the Aging Starts Now podcast, please subscribe, rate the show, or leave us a review. It's easy to do on whatever app you use to listen. We would love your feedback on the show. Aging Starts Now. We'll be back next week with more candid discussions about the challenges created by aging, disability, and unexpected illness.